Family is your foundation, the ones who carry you through life's storms. But what happens when the person you trusted most chooses someone else, leaving you behind? This is a story of betrayal, resilience, and rebuilding what matters. My name is Khalil, 47, a mechanic living in Houston, Texas. My life's been about keeping things steady, running my small auto shop, raising my 12-year-old daughter, Layla, and holding tight to the roots that shaped me. I'm Egyptian American, raised by my single mom, Fatima, who was my everything. Growing up, it was just us two, fighting to make it. She worked two jobs, waitress by day, office cleaner by night, to keep food on the table. We lived in a cramped apartment, the kind where the radiator clanked all winter, but we had each other. She'd skip meals so I could eat, mend my clothes with careful stitches, and tell me stories of her childhood in Cairo to keep my dreams alive. That bond was our strength, our shield against the world. 5 years ago, when Fatima told me she was marrying Mark, I was over the moon for her. She was 65, finally easing up after decades of hustle. Mark seemed solid, a retired accountant, quiet, always with a polite nod. I thought he'd bring her peace. I'd been divorced for years, co-parenting Layla with my ex, and seeing Fatima happy felt like a win. Layla loved her grandma fiercely. They'd spend hours in the kitchen, Fatima teaching her to roll out dough for fattier, laughing when flour dusted their faces. I figured Mark would just slide into our little family. No waves. But things started to shift, slow and sneaky, like a leak you don't notice until the floor's ruined. Mark began making comments when I'd come over for our weekly dinners at Fatima's house. "You're here a lot, Khalil," he'd say, his tone light but sharp. I brushed it off. I wasn't some mooch. My shop keeps me afloat, fixing cars for folks who can't afford fancy garages. Never asked Fatima for a dime since I was a teenager, but Mark's remarks got bolder, and Fatima started acting off. She'd cancel dinners, saying she and Mark were busy. Busy with what? They were retired, always tinkering in their garden or watching TV. It didn't add up. The real blow came on Layla's 10th birthday. Fatima always made birthday special streamers, a homemade cake, her famous pistachio mammal cookies, but that year, she didn't show. No call, no text, nothing. Layla kept asking, "Where's Grandma?" Her voice small. I was glued to the door. I lied, said Fatima was sick, but I was burning inside. I called her later, trying to stay calm. She apologized, voice rushed, saying she and Mark had a last-minute trip. A trip? On Layla's birthday? I swallowed my anger, but it sat heavy. Layla cried that night, and I felt like I'd let her down. A few months later, I couldn't take it anymore. I drove to Fatima's house, set her down in her bright kitchen, the one that used to smell like her spices. I asked why she was pulling away. That's when she hit me with it. Mark thought I was too dependent. Me, the guy who'd build a life from nothing, just like she had. She said he felt I was in the way of their new life. I stared at her, waiting for her to take it back, but she just looked away, fidgeting with her tea. "Khalil, you're grown," she said. "You don't need me anymore." It was like a punch to the gut. My mother, my hero, was choosing this man over me and Layla. I left her house in a daze, driving through Houston's humid streets. All those years, her late shifts, our late-night talks, the way we'd survived together felt erased. Was I just baggage to her now? Had Mark convinced her I was a burden? Or did she always feel this way? That night, I tucked Layla into bed as she asked why Grandma didn't love us anymore. I hugged her, promising I'd always be there. But inside, I was crumbling. How do you keep going when the person who made you who you are decides you're not worth keeping? Leaving Fatima's house that day, her words burned into me. "You're grown, Khalil. You don't need me." I drove through Houston's sprawling streets, the humid air thick, my mind replaying everything. Growing up, it was always me and her against the world. Her juggling two jobs, me helping with bills as soon as I could work. We'd laugh over burnt toast, share dreams of a better life. She'd call me her rock. But now, she was tossing that rock aside for Mark. It wasn't just betrayal. It felt like she was rewriting our history, like those years of struggle meant nothing. I tried to keep it together for Layla. She was only 10, too young to grasp why her grandma was vanishing. I'd catch her staring at old photos, her and Fatima at the park, sharing cotton candy, both beaming. "Is Grandma coming over soon?" she'd ask, her voice hopeful. I'd mumble something about Fatima being busy, but it killed me to dodge the truth. Mark had gotten into Fatima's head, painting me as some freeloader. Me, who'd been on my own since 18, running a shop, raising Layla without ever leaning on anyone. The unfairness of it churned in my gut. For weeks, I kept trying to fix things. I'd call Fatima, leaving voicemails when she didn't answer. Hey, Ma, just checking in. Layla's asking for you. Nothing. I'd swing by her house with Layla, hoping to catch her. But Mark was always there, opening the door with that tight smile. She's resting, he'd say, like I was some stranger. Once, I saw Fatima through the window, laughing with him over coffee in their backyard. She looked happy, happier than she'd been with us in a while. That hurt worse than the silence, like she'd traded our family for his. Work was my escape. My auto shop, with its grease-stained floors and clanging tools, was the one place I could focus. I'd lose myself fixing engines, the rhythm of it calming the storm in my head. My crew, Javier and Tony, noticed I was off. You all right, boss? Tony asked one day, wiping sweat off his brow. I shrugged. But they didn't push. They'd bring me coffee, crack jokes, keep things light. It wasn't a fix, but it was something to hold on to. Still, every night, driving home, I'd feel that ache. I kept wondering if I'd done something wrong. Was I too clingy? Did I lean on Fatima without realizing it? But the more I thought, the clearer it got. This wasn't on me. Mark wanted her all to himself, and she let him draw that line. Layla was hurting, and that was the hardest part. She started getting quiet. Not her usual chatty self. She'd draw pictures of the three of us, me, her, Fatima, smiling under a big sun. For Grandma, she'd say, tucking them away. One night, she brought me a drawing of a birthday cake, saying, "Can we give this to Grandma for her birthday?" Fatima's birthday was months off, but Layla was clinging to hope. I couldn't tell her Fatima hadn't even sent a card for her own birthday. I just nodded, said we'd try, knowing that drawing would probably end up in a drawer. I decided to confront Mark. Maybe it was dumb, thinking I could reason with him. I showed up at their house one Saturday, alone. No Layla. Fatima let me in, but Mark was right there, arms crossed, like he was guarding her. I didn't hold back. Why are you pushing me out? I've never asked for anything but family. Mark barely blinked. Fatima's got a new life now, he said, like I was some old baggage. She needs space. Fatima just sat there, staring at her hands, not saying a word. That silence was louder than anything. She wasn't just letting this happen. She was choosing it. I walked out, my chest tight, promising myself I wouldn't beg for her love anymore. That night, I sat in my living room, flipping through old photos, Fatima teaching me to ride a bike, us at my high school graduation, her proud smile when I opened my shop. It felt like mourning someone who was still alive. Layla curled up next to me, asleep. And I swore I'd protect her from this kind of pain. But how do you shield your kid from a hurt you're still carrying? How do you move on when your whole foundation's gone? After walking out of Fatima's house, Mark's words, "She needs space," ringing in my ears, I felt like I'd been cut loose from everything I knew. Houston streets blurred past as I drove home, the weight of Fatima's silence heavier than ever. She wasn't just my mom. She was my partner in surviving a tough life, her late-night shifts at the diner, my odd jobs as a kid to help with bills. We'd built something unbreakable, or so I thought. Now, she'd let Mark convince her I was in the way, and she didn't even fight for us. It was like losing her all over again, except she was still out there, living a life that didn't include me or Layla. I stopped calling after that. No more voicemails, no more hoping she'd show up. It wasn't about being stubborn. It was about protecting what was left of me. Every unanswered call, every time Mark answered her door with that smug look, chipped away at something. I had to focus on Layla, on keeping her world steady when mine was falling apart. But it wasn't easy. Layla was 11 now, sharp enough to sense the shift. She'd stopped asking about Fatima as much, but I'd catch her staring at the old photo. On her dresser, her and Fatima at the zoo. Ice cream smudged on their faces. "Dad, is Grandma okay?" she asked one night, her voice small. I hated lying, but I said, "She's just busy, Habibti." The truth that Fatima had chosen Mark over us was too heavy for her. Work kept me grounded. My shop was my sanctuary, the smell of oil and metal a distraction from the chaos in my head. My guys, Javier and Tony, could tell I was struggling. They didn't pry, but they'd drag me to lunch at the taqueria. tossing around dumb jokes until I cracked a smile. One day, Javier caught me staring at an old picture on my desk, me and Fatima at the shop's opening, her holding a plate of baklava she'd made for the crew. "You want to talk, Khalil?" he asked. I shook my head. But later, over coffee at his place, I let it out, how Fatima's distance felt like losing a limb, how Mark had turned her against us. Javier just listened, then said, "You and Layla, your family to us, don't forget that." It wasn't a cure, but it was a lifeline. I started leaning into our mosque more. I'd always gone for Eid and the occasional Friday prayer. But now, it was different. The rhythm of the adhan, the quiet of the prayer room, gave me a place to breathe. Layla came with me, sitting with the women, learning to recite Quran. The sisters there, especially Sister Amal, took her under their wing. Amal would braid Layla's hair, sneak her extra dates after iftar, and tell her stories about her own kids. It was like Layla found a new kind of family. One that showed up. Amal invited us to her house for dinners, her table overflowing with lentil soup and laughter. It didn't erase Fatima's absence, but it softened the edges. Still, the hurt was always there, like a bruise I couldn't stop pressing. I'd drive by Fatima's house sometimes, not stopping, just slowing down to see if her car was there. Once, I saw her and Mark planting flowers in their yard. Her smiling in a way I hadn't seen in years. It was like watching a stranger live my mother's life. I wondered what she told herself to justify cutting us out. Did she think I was fine without her? Did she miss Layla at all? At night, I'd lie awake, replaying memories, her teaching me to make full medams, us laughing over her old Egyptian soap operas. It felt like grieving someone who was still alive. Layla started acting out, and that's what scared me most. Her teacher called, saying she was distracted, snapping at friends. I sat her down one night after dinner, her favorite chicken shawarma half-eaten on her plate. "What's going on, Habibdi?" I asked. She looked down, twisting her napkin. "I just miss Grandma," she whispered. "Why doesn't she want us?" My heart cracked. I pulled her close, promising we'd be okay. But inside, I was furious at Fatima, at Mark, at myself for not shielding her better. I had to figure out how to help Layla heal. But how do you do that when you're still bleeding from the same wound? Layla's words that night, "Why doesn't she want us?" stayed with me, heavy as a lead weight. I held her until she fell asleep, her tears drying on my shirt. But I couldn't sleep. Houston's humid nights felt suffocating, mirroring the ache in my chest. Fatima's absence wasn't just a personal betrayal. It was hurting my daughter, and that was unforgivable. I'd spent my life trying to be the man she raised me to be, hardworking, loyal, steady. But now, I was questioning everything. Had I been wrong to lean on our bond so much? Was I the problem, like Mark seemed to think? The doubts gnawed at me, but deep down, I knew this wasn't my fault. Fatima had chosen Mark's version of her life over ours, and I had to figure out how to move forward. I threw myself into being a better dad for Layla. She was 11, almost 12, and growing too fast, her world shifting under her feet. Her teacher's warnings about her behavior, zoning out, snapping at friends, pushed me to act. I got her into counseling, driving her to a small office every Thursday where a kind woman named Ms. Rivera helped her talk through the hurt. Layla didn't say much about it, but I noticed small changes. She'd hum while doing homework or laugh a little easier. Still, when she drew pictures of our old life with Fatima, I could see the longing in every crayon stroke. I wanted to fix it, to bring Fatima back, but I couldn't force her to care. Work was still my refuge. The shop's chaos, clanging tools, the smell of motor oil kept me grounded. Javier and Tony stepped up in ways I didn't expect. They'd bring Layla snacks when she hung out after school, teaching her how to use a torque wrench, making her giggle with their terrible car puns. One afternoon, Javier pulled me aside. "You're doing good, Khalil," he said. "Layla's lucky to have you." I nodded, but I didn't feel good. I felt like I was failing her, letting Fatima's absence define us. But their support, the way they showed up, reminded me I wasn't alone. The mosque became our anchor. I started going to Friday prayers regularly, finding peace in the rhythm of the Salah. Layla loved it there, especially the women's section where Sister Amal and her daughter, Noor, treated her like family. Amal would invite us over. Her house filled with the smell of roasted lamb and the sound of kids running around. Layla started smiling more, learning to make origami with Noor, her small hands folding paper into stars and cranes. Amal would catch my eye. Sometimes, offering a quiet nod, like she knew the weight I was carrying. You're enough for her. Khalil, she said once, handing me a plate of stuffed grape leaves. I wanted to believe her. But the pain didn't fade. I'd see things that brought Fatima back. A street vendor selling Koshari, an old Arabic song on the radio, and it was like a fresh cut. I stopped driving by her house, but one day, her neighbor, Mrs. Lopez, called. Saw Fatima at the market, she said. She looked tired, asked about you and Layla. My heart jumped, then sank. Why hadn't she called me herself? I thanked Mrs. Lopez but didn't reach out. The old me would have run to Fatima, desperate for a sign she still cared. But now, I was tired of begging for scraps of her love. Layla's 12th birthday was coming up, and I was determined to make it special. I planned a party at the park, balloons, a playlist of her favorite songs, a cake I tried and failed to bake myself. Javier showed up with a piñata, Tony brought his famous queso, and Amal arrived with a tray of mammal. Layla ran around with her friends, laughing, her face bright in a way I hadn't seen in months. But when the party wound down, I saw her glance at the empty spot where Fatima used to stand, clapping. As she blew out candles, later, she hugged me tight. Best day ever, Dad, she said, but her voice caught. I knew she felt the absence, too. That night, I realized I couldn't keep waiting for Fatima to come back. I had to show Layla we were enough, that we didn't need to chase someone who'd walked away, but it was hard when I was still wrestling with the loss myself. Every memory of Fatima. Her teaching me to cook, her cheering at my soccer games, felt like a ghost. How do you let go of the person who shaped you when they've decided you're not worth keeping? Layla's 12th birthday stuck with me, not just for her smile, but for that fleeting glance at the empty space where Fatima should have been. I tried so hard to make it a perfect day, but her absence was like a shadow we couldn't shake. Driving home through Houston's sticky evening, Layla asleep in the back seat, I felt the weight of being her everything. I wanted to protect her from the hurt Fatima caused, but I was still carrying it myself. Every time I thought I was moving on, something a recipe card in Fatima's handwriting, the smell of jasmine like her old perfume, dragged me back to the pain. How do you let go of someone who was your whole world? I kept Layla in counseling, and it was helping. Ms. Rivera said she was opening up, talking about how she missed Fatima but felt guilty, like she'd done something wrong. Hearing that made my blood boil. Layla was just a kid, bright, kind, always sketching flowers or stars in her notebook. She didn't deserve to question her worth because her grandma chose Mark's new life over us. I started being more honest with her, not to hurt her, but to help her understand. Grandma made a choice, Habibdi. I told her one night over ice cream, it's not about you, you're enough. She nodded, but her eyes said she wasn't sure. Work was still my anchor. The shop's rhythm, wrenches clanging, engines humming, gave me something to hold on to. Javier and Tony were more than employees now. They were brothers. They'd bring Layla to the shop after school, letting her help with small tasks like sorting bolts, making her laugh with stories of their own kids. One day, Tony caught me staring at an old photo of Fatima and me from when I got my mechanic's certification. She'd framed it herself, proud as anything. You gotta let it go, man, he said. Not unkindly, you're killing yourself holding on. He was right, but letting go felt like betraying her, even after everything. The mosque was our refuge. Friday prayers became a ritual. The imam's voice a steady calm against my storm. Layla loved the community. Sister Amal and Noor were like family now. Amal would have us over for tea. Her house warm with the smell of cardamom and laughter. Layla and Noor would spend hours making bracelets, giggling over silly TikToks. Amal saw the weight I carried. You're a good father, Khalil, she said one evening, handing me a plate of kanafa. Layla sees it. Even if she doesn't. Say it. Those words stuck. I wasn't perfect, but I was trying, and maybe that was enough. One day, I got a text from Mrs. Lopez, Fatima's neighbor. Your mom's been asking about you, she wrote. Saw her at the community center, looking lonely. My heart twisted. Part of me wanted to call Fatima to see if she regretted pushing us away, but then I remembered Layla's tears, the birthdays Fatima missed, the silence that stretched months. I didn't reply to Mrs. Lopez. I couldn't keep opening that wound, hoping for a different ending. Fatima had made her choice, and I had to make mine. Layla came first. I started building new traditions with Layla. We'd have game nights, battling it out over Uno, her laughing when I pretended to lose on purpose. I taught her to change a car's oil, her small hands steady with the wrench. We'd pray together at the mosque. Her voice soft, but sure as she recited Surah Al-Fatiha. Those moments were our glue, proof we could be whole without Fatima, but the hurt lingered. I'd find myself staring at old photos, Fatima teaching me to ride a bike, her cheering at my high school graduation. It was like mourning someone who was still out there, living a life I wasn't part of. Layla started to heal, bit by bit. She'd draw again, filling her sketchbook with bright colors, though she stopped including Fatima in her pictures. One evening, she showed me a drawing of us at the shop, her holding a wrench, me smiling. "This is us, Dad," she said. Her voice steady. I hugged her, my throat tight. I was learning to let go, not of the love I had for Fatima, but of the need for her to choose us. But how do you teach your kid to move forward when you're still figuring it out? Yourself? Layla's drawing of us at the shop, her small hand gripping a wrench, became my new anchor. I taped it to the fridge, a reminder that we were building something new. Even if it hurt to let go of the old, Houston's relentless heat mirrored the weight I carried. Fatima's absence was a constant hum in the background, like a radio you can't turn off. I'd stopped expecting her to call, but every now and then, I'd catch myself wondering if she missed us, if she ever thought about Layla's laugh or our old Sunday dinners. The silence from her was deafening, and I was learning to live with it. But it wasn't easy. How do you stop loving the person who made you who you are? Layla was doing better, thanks to counseling and the community we'd found. She was 12 now, her confidence creeping back. She'd chatter about school, her friends, the new art club she'd joined. But sometimes, I'd see her pause, her eyes distant. And I knew she was thinking of Fatima. One night, as we washed dishes together, she asked, "Dad, do you think Grandma's happy without us?" I froze, the soapy plate slipping in my hands. I wanted to say something comforting, but I settled on the truth. "I don't know, Habibti, but we're finding our own happiness, right?" She nodded, but her quietness said she was still searching for answers I couldn't give. The shop kept me steady. Javier and Tony were my rocks, always ready with a joke or a cold soda on a brutal Houston afternoon. They'd started calling Layla Little Boss, letting her organize their toolboxes, her giggles filling the garage. One day, Javier pulled me aside after closing. "You're carrying too much, Khalil," he said, his voice low. "You gotta let your mom go, for Layla's sake." I knew he was right, but it felt like betraying Fatima. Even after everything, I built my life around her strength, her lessons. Letting go meant admitting she wasn't that person anymore. The mosque was our haven. Sister Amal and Noor were family now, their warmth filling gaps I couldn't. Amal would have us over for dinner, her table packed with malokia and fresh pita. Layla and Noor trading stories about school. Amal saw the strain in me. The way I'd go quiet when Layla mentioned Fatima. "You're doing enough, Khalil," she told me one evening, her eyes kind but firm. "You can't control her choices, only yours." I nodded, but it was hard to accept. I wanted to be enough for Layla, but I was still wrestling with my own hurt. A few months after Layla's birthday, I got a letter from Fatima. Not a call, not a visit, just a single page, her neat handwriting filling the lines. My heart raced as I opened it, hoping for an apology, a sign she wanted us back. Instead, it was vague, almost formal. She wrote about her new garden, how she and Mark were settling in, and ended with, "I hope you and Layla are well." No mention of the missed birthdays, the canceled dinners, the way she'd cut us out. I sat there, staring at the paper, anger mixing with grief. She was reaching out, but it felt like too little, too late. I didn't reply. I couldn't. Layla deserved better than half-hearted gestures. I focused on building a life for us. Layla and I started new traditions, Saturday hikes at the park, her teaching me how to play her favorite video games. I'm terrible, but she loves it. We'd pray together at the mosque, her voice stronger with every surah. She started sketching again, her drawings brighter, full of life. One evening, she showed me a picture of us at the mosque, her and me praying side by side, with Amal and Noor in the background. "This is our family now," she said, her smile shy but sure. I hugged her, my throat tight. She was healing, and I was trying to catch up. But the pain lingered. Driving home from the shop, I'd pass streets that reminded me of Fatima, her old diner, the market where we'd buy spices. I wondered if she ever regretted choosing Mark, if she missed Layla's laugh or our late night talks. I was learning to let go, not of the love, but of the need for her to choose us. Layla was my focus now. But how do you fully move on when the person who raised you is still out there, living a life you're not part of? Fatima's letter sat on my kitchen counter for weeks, untouched. After that first read, I'd glance at it. Her neat handwriting, a ghost of the woman who used to write me notes for school lunches. No apology, no real regret. Just a polite note about her garden and Mark, like we were distant cousins, not her son and granddaughter. Houston's sticky air felt heavier those days, like it was pressing down on the ache I couldn't shake. I wanted to call her, to demand answers. But what would I even say? Why don't you love us anymore? I couldn't put that on Layla, couldn't let her see me beg for something Fatima wasn't giving. Layla was my focus now. She was 12, growing into herself, her smile coming back in flashes, counseling with MS. Rivera was helping. She'd talk about her art club, her new friends, but sometimes she'd get quiet, her fingers tracing the edges of her sketchbook. One evening, as we played Uno, she asked, "Dad, do you think Grandma ever thinks about us?" Her voice was steady, but her eyes weren't. I took a breath, choosing my words carefully. "I think she does, Habibti, but sometimes people make choices we can't understand. We've got our own family now." She nodded, dealing the next card, but I knew the question lingered. The shop was my lifeline, the clank of tools, the hum of engines. It was where I could breathe. Javier and Tony kept things light, sneaking Layla candy when she hung out after school, calling her little boss as she organized their workstations. One night, after closing, Javier invited me over for a barbecue. His backyard was chaos, kids running around, his wife grilling carne asada. Layla joined in, laughing with Javier's daughters. Watching her, I felt a flicker of hope. "You're doing all right, Khalil," Javier said, handing me a beer. "She's a good kid." I nodded, but the weight of Fatima's absence was still there, like a shadow I couldn't outrun. The mosque grounded us. Sister Amal and Noor were constants now, their warmth a balm for the hurt. Amal had us over for Eid, her house bursting with food and noise, lamb kabsa, kids chasing each other, Layla and Noor trading bracelets they'd made. Amal pulled me aside as we cleaned up. "You're carrying too much guilt, Khalil," she said, her voice soft but firm. "You can't make your mother choose you. Let Layla see you live." Her words hit hard. I'd been so focused on shielding Layla, I hadn't realized I was still stuck, waiting for Fatima to come back. A few weeks later, I ran into Fatima's old friend, Hannah, at the grocery store. She hugged me, her eyes sad. "Fatima talks about you sometimes," she said. "She misses you. But Mark, he's got her in a bubble." I wanted to feel sorry for her, but anger flared instead. Why couldn't she fight for us? Why was Mark's bubble stronger than our bond? I thanked Hannah, but drove home in silence, the old wound fresh again. I didn't tell Layla. She didn't need more false hope. I doubled down on building a life for us. Layla and I started cooking together, trying recipes Fatima taught me, full medams, malokia, reclaiming them as ours. She'd laugh when I got the spices wrong, and I'd pretend to be offended. Chasing her around the kitchen, we'd go to the park, kicking a soccer ball until we were sweaty and breathless. At the mosque, Layla joined a youth group, her confidence growing as she led a project to decorate the community center. Watching her present her ideas, her voice clear and proud, I felt like maybe I was doing something right. But the hurt didn't vanish. I'd hear an Arabic song Fatima loved, or see a woman her age at the shop, and it had hit me, grief for the mother I'd lost. Even if she was still out there, I stopped expecting her to show up, but I couldn't stop the memories. Her teaching me to drive, her clapping at my shop's opening, her voice calling me Habibi. I wanted to hate her, but I couldn't. I just wanted her to see Layla growing up, to see the family we were without her. I was learning to let go. But how do you fully release someone who's still part of you, even if they've chosen to walk away? It's been over a year since I last heard from Fatima, and I've stopped waiting for her to show up with an apology or a plate of her koshari. Houston's sun still blazes, but the weight of her absence doesn't crush me anymore. Layla's 13 now, growing into a fierce, bright girl whose learning her worth doesn't depend on anyone's approval, not even her grandma's. That's what I hold on to. Her laugh when we burn pancakes, her confidence leading her youth group at the mosque, the way she says, "You're the best, Dad." Those moments are our foundation. Built without Fatima, and they're stronger than I ever expected. Layla's healing. Thanks to counseling and time, she's back to sketching. Her notebook's filled with vibrant flowers and stars, no longer including Fatima in every scene. Last week, she showed me a drawing of us at the park, with Javier, Tony, Sister Amal, and Noor around us, all smiling under a big sun. This is our family, she said, her voice sure. I framed it, hung it in the shop next to my tools. It's proof we're enough. Even if it's not the family I grew up imagining, she still thinks of. Fatima, I see it in her quiet moments, but she's learning to let go, just like I am. The shop's my steady ground. Javier and Tony are brothers now, calling Layla Little Boss. As she sorts their wrenches, her giggles filling the garage, they've got my back. Showing up with burgers for Layla's school events or dragging me to basketball games when I'm stuck in my head. Last month, Javier threw a cookout for Layla's art club, his backyard alive with kids and music, watching Layla chase Noor with a water balloon. I felt peace, like we were building something unbreakable. You're doing good, Khalil, Tony said, tossing me a soda. She's a happy kid. He's right, and that's what keeps me going. The mosque is our home. Sister Amal and Noor are family, their warmth filling the gaps Fatima left. Amal's house is always open, her table piled with malokia and laughter. Layla and Noor make bracelets, plan youth group projects, their chatter a constant hum. Amal sees the weight I carry. You're enough for her, she told me after iftar, her eyes kind. I'm starting to believe it. Layla's leading a mural project at the mosque now, her voice steady as she shares her ideas. Watching her, I see the strength Fatima gave me, but I'm passing it to Layla in a way Fatima didn't. I heard from Mrs. Lopez that Fatima and Mark moved to a new suburb, starting fresh again. It hurt, but I didn't call. I'm done chasing her love. Her letter from months ago, all vague talk of gardens and no apology, sits in a drawer. I don't need it anymore. I don't know if she misses Layla's laugh, our old Sunday dinners, or the way we used to be. Maybe she does, maybe she doesn't. But I can't live for her regrets. I'm focused on Layla, her art, her dreams. The way she's growing into someone who knows she's enough. The pain's still there, like an old scar. I'll hear a song Fatima loved or see a mother and son at the shop, and it stings. I don't hate her. She raised me, taught me to survive, but I don't need her to see me anymore. Family isn't owed your loyalty if they discard you for convenience. Layla and I have built something better, with people who choose us. Amal, Noor, Javier, Tony. They're there for the big moments and the small ones, like when Layla scored her first soccer goal. And they all cheered. Louder than me. That's family. Layla's my reason, and our community's my strength. We're not broken, just different. And that's more than enough. I'm teaching Layla she's enough. And in doing that, I've learned I am, too. This is our life now, and I wouldn't trade it.